The split between what you know and who you are. You've read the books. You've taken the courses. You understand abundance mindset. You know the manifestation principles. You can talk about quantum wealth like an expert. Your thoughts have completely upgraded. You think like a wealthy person. But when you look at your bank account, when you try to charge premium prices, when you're in a real financial situation, you feel broke. There's a gap between what you think and what you feel, between your upgraded mind and your unchanged identity. And this gap is exactly what's keeping you stuck. Your thoughts upgraded. Your identity didn't. And in the battle between thoughts and identity, identity wins every single time. Let me explain what the wealth identity gap is and why it's one of the most common blocks for people who've done significant inner work. Identity is deeper than thoughts or beliefs. It's the answer to the question, who am I? At the most fundamental level. Your identity lives in your body, in your nervous system, in your subconscious, not in your conscious mind. You can change your thoughts about money relatively easily. You can learn new concepts and adopt new beliefs intellectually. But changing your identity, that's a whole different process. The wealth identity gap happens when your conscious mind has adopted wealthy thinking, but your deeper identity hasn't caught up. Your mind says, I am abundant, but your identity says, I am someone who struggles with money. Your mind knows you deserve wealth, but your identity feels like an imposter when you try to embody it. Your mind understands quantum prosperity, but your identity still operates from the programming installed in childhood when money meant stress and scarcity. This gap creates profound internal conflict. Part of you is trying to think and act wealthy, but another part, a deeper, more powerful part, is pulling you back to behaviors, feelings, and results that match your unchanged identity. It's like you're speaking a new language fluently in your head, but when you open your mouth, your native language comes out. The surface has changed, but the core hasn't. The reason this gap is so frustrating is that you feel like you've done the work. You've upgraded your mindset. You understand the principles. You should be creating wealth. But understanding isn't embodiment. Knowing isn't being. Your thoughts about wealth have evolved, but the person you fundamentally believe yourself to be hasn't shifted to match. And manifestation doesn't respond to what you think. It responds to who you are. Think about it this way. You can put on expensive clothes, but if you don't feel like someone who belongs in those clothes, everyone can tell. You can state premium prices, but if you don't feel like someone who's worth that much, clients sense the incongruence and don't buy. You can visualize wealth, but if you don't feel like a wealthy person in your body, the visualization is just a mental exercise with no energetic power. The gap between your thoughts and your identity creates energetic static that blocks manifestation. The wealth identity gap also explains why people can have breakthrough moments where they embody wealth consciousness, experience success, and then snap back to their old reality. They temporarily bridged the gap, thought and identity aligned for a moment, and manifestation happened. But because the identity shift wasn't permanent, just temporary, they couldn't sustain the new level. Their identity pulled them back to what feels like me, even if what feels like me is struggling financially. Here's what makes the gap especially tricky. Your identity defends itself. When you try to think, feel, or act in ways that contradict your core identity, your system perceives it as a threat. This isn't me. This feels fake. I'm being inauthentic. These thoughts aren't wisdom, they're your identity protecting itself from change. Your identity would rather keep you financially struggling but authentically you, than allow you to become wealthy if wealth means becoming someone different. The quantum field doesn't respond to your aspirational thoughts. It responds to your actual identity, the frequency of who you truly believe yourself to be in your deepest core. When there's a gap between your thoughts, abundant, and your identity, struggling, the field mirrors back your identity, not your thoughts. This is why affirmations alone don't work. You're affirming abundance with your mind while emanating struggle from your identity. The field reads the identity signal as the truth of who you are. How identity forms and why it's resistant to change. To bridge the wealth identity gap, You need to understand how identity was formed in the first place and why it resists the very changes you're trying to make. Identity isn't something you consciously chose. It was installed through years of experiences, messages, and conditioning before you had the awareness to question it. And once formed, identity becomes the lens through which you interpret all of reality. Your wealth identity was primarily formed between ages 0 and 12 through a process called social mirroring. You observed how the people around you related to money, their stress, their limitations, their beliefs. But more importantly, you absorbed how they saw you in relation to money. If they treated you like someone who would struggle, who wasn't good with money, who came from people like us, who don't get wealthy, that became your identity. Not because you chose it, but because identity is formed through how we're reflected back to ourselves by our early environment. Language played a crucial role too. The statements you heard repeatedly about who you are became your identity. You're just like your father, terrible with money. You're the creative one, not the business-minded one. You're too generous with money, you'll never save. These weren't just comments, they were identity installations. Your young brain heard these statements from authority figures and encoded them as truth about who you are. Decades later, you're still operating from these identity programs. Your identity also formed through emotional experiences that your nervous system encoded as "who I am" statements. Maybe you experienced shame around not having money for something everyone else had. Your nervous system encoded, "I am someone who doesn't have enough." Maybe you witnessed a parent's financial stress and absorbed their anxiety. Your nervous system encoded, "I am someone for whom money equals stress." These encodings happened below conscious awareness but became fundamental to your sense of self. The reason identity is so resistant to change is that it's tied to survival at the nervous system level. Your identity represents your brain's best understanding of who you need to be to stay safe, to belong, to survive. Changing your identity feels dangerous because it means becoming someone unknown, unpredictable, potentially vulnerable. Your nervous system prefers the familiar struggle of your current identity over the uncertain possibility of a new one, even if the new one would be wealthier. Identity also resists change through a process called identity verification. Your brain constantly looks for evidence that confirms your existing identity and dismisses or distorts evidence that contradicts it. If your identity is, "I'm someone who struggles with money," you'll notice every financial difficulty and barely register financial wins. Your brain is literally filtering reality to maintain consistency with your identity. This makes changing identity feel impossible because you keep seeing evidence that you are who you've always been. Another resistance mechanism is identity-based decision-making. You make choices not based on what would create the best outcome, but based on what someone with your identity would do. If your identity is, "I'm not good with money," you'll avoid financial education, delegate financial decisions, or make choices that confirm your incompetence. These aren't conscious self-sabotage, they're your brain acting consistently with your identity, which it believes is crucial for survival. Social reinforcement also keeps your identity locked in place. The people who know you expect you to be who you've always been. When you start to shift your identity, thinking differently, acting differently, making different choices, their discomfort reflects back to you that you're being not yourself. This social pressure to maintain your familiar identity is incredibly powerful because humans are wired for belonging, and identity is tied to tribal acceptance. Your body holds identity at a somatic level too. Your posture, your breathing patterns, your tension, your energy, all of these physical states are calibrated to your identity. Someone who identifies as struggling carries their body differently than someone who identifies as abundant. When you try to think wealthy thoughts while your body still holds the posture and energy of struggle, the incongruence is why you feel fake. True identity shift requires somatic change, not just mental change. The manifestation consequences of the identity gap. Living with a wealth identity gap, where your thoughts are upgraded but your identity hasn't shifted, creates specific, predictable patterns in your manifestation results. Understanding these patterns helps you recognize when the gap is operating and why your efforts aren't producing the outcomes you expect. The gap doesn't just slow your results, It creates a particular kind of frustrating inconsistency. The first manifestation consequence is what I call the rubber band effect. You take inspired action from your upgraded thoughts, and you create some success. Money comes in, opportunities appear, you feel like you're breaking through. But then something happens, you sabotage, you retreat, you create a problem, and you snap back to your baseline. This isn't bad luck. It's your identity reasserting itself. You temporarily stretched beyond your identity, but the identity pulled you back to what feels like normal for who you believe you are. Another consequence is inconsistent results that don't match your effort. Sometimes you take minimal action and money flows easily. Other times you work incredibly hard and struggle. The difference: in the easy moments, your thoughts and identity were aligned. You were being wealth, not just thinking it. In the struggle moments, you were thinking wealth while being struggle. Your effort can't overcome the identity gap. When who you are contradicts what you're trying to create, being always wins over trying. The identity gap also creates what I call borrowed success. You can achieve wealth in ways that don't require you to embody a wealthy identity. Maybe you get a high-paying job where you're implementing someone else's strategy. Maybe you inherit money. Maybe you win something. These can bring money, but if your identity hasn't shifted, you can't keep it. You'll unconsciously spend it, lose it, or create circumstances that remove it because having wealth contradicts who you believe yourself to be. Imposter syndrome is a direct manifestation of the identity gap. You're doing wealthy person things, charging premium prices, making significant income, being visible, but you feel like a fraud because your identity hasn't caught up to your actions. This isn't just uncomfortable emotionally, it creates energetic incoherence that others can sense. Clients pick up on the incongruence and it affects their trust. The field picks up on it and mirrors back situations that confirm you're not really wealthy. The gap also creates ceiling effects where you can reach a certain level but can't break through to the next. You can make $50,000 because your identity can stretch to accommodate that, but trying to make $100,000 triggers massive identity threat. Your system does whatever it takes to keep you at the level your identity can tolerate. This isn't a strategy problem or a market problem, it's an identity ceiling. Your results can only expand as far as your identity expands. Another consequence is exhaustion from constant internal conflict. Maintaining thoughts that contradict your identity requires enormous energy. You're essentially trying to be two different people simultaneously: the wealthy person your mind aspires to and the struggling person your identity knows you as. This split drains your vitality, creates anxiety, and leads to burnout. You're not exhausted from your work, you're exhausted from the internal war between upgraded thoughts and unchanged identity. The identity gap also manifests as confusion about why things aren't working. You know the principles, you're doing the practices, you're taking action. Why aren't you wealthy? The confusion itself is evidence of the gap. If your identity had shifted to match your thoughts, creating wealth would feel natural, almost inevitable. The fact that it feels confusing, difficult, or mysterious indicates that your deeper self doesn't yet believe that wealth is who you are. Perhaps the most painful consequence is the self-judgment that comes with the gap. You know what you should be creating. You can see the potential. You understand what's possible. But you're not living it, and you judge yourself harshly. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? This self-judgment creates shame, which further cements the struggling identity. You're proving to yourself that you're broken, which becomes more identity evidence that you're not someone who gets to be wealthy. Bridging the gap through embodied identity shift. Bridging the wealth identity gap isn't about more mindset work or learning more concepts. It's about bringing your body, nervous system, and deepest sense of self into alignment with the wealth consciousness your mind has already achieved. This is embodiment work, making the shift from thinking wealthy to being wealthy at the identity level. Here's how to actually do it. The first and most important practice is identity-based action rather than outcome-based action. Instead of asking, "What action will make me money?" ask, "What would someone with my desired identity do in this situation?" Then do that. regardless of whether it seems like it will produce immediate income. Maybe someone with a wealthy identity would invest in support, say no to a low-paying client, take a day off without guilt, or state their premium price confidently. Each time you act from your desired identity, you're training your system that this is who you are now. Somatic identity work is crucial because identity lives in your body, not just your mind. Practice the physical embodiment of your desired identity. How does a wealthy person hold their body? Usually with more openness, relaxation, and taking up space. Practice this posture. How does a wealthy person breathe? Usually deeper, fuller, more relaxed. Practice this breathing. How does a wealthy person move through space? Usually with more ease and confidence. Practice this movement. Your body learning wealth identity is as important as your mind learning it. Create identity evidence rather than waiting for external evidence. Your brain needs proof that you are your new identity. But you can't wait for your bank account to prove it. That's backwards. Instead, collect evidence through your choices. Every time you choose from your desired identity, note it. Today I acted as someone wealthy by setting a boundary, or I embodied abundance by investing in my growth. This evidence trains your brain that you are becoming your new identity. Practice what I call identity immersion, spending time in environments, with people, and in activities that match your desired identity. Your brain learns identity through environmental cues and social mirroring. If you want to shift into wealthy identity, you need exposure to contexts where that identity is normal. This doesn't mean fake it till you make it. It means consciously placing yourself in situations where your desired identity is the natural way to be, allowing your nervous system to absorb and normalize it. Work with identity-level affirmations, not just outcome affirmations. Instead of I am wealthy, outcome, try I am someone who creates wealth easily, identity. Instead of money flows to me, outcome, try I am someone who money trusts, identity. These subtle shifts move from what you want to have to who you want to be. Your brain responds more powerfully to identity statements because they feel more core, more true, more important for survival. Release the old identity with ritual and ceremony. Your identity shift isn't just about adding a new identity, it's also about releasing the old one. Create a conscious completion with who you've been. Write out the old identity and what it gave you: safety through familiarity, connection to family through shared struggle, excuse not to risk. Thank it for serving you. Then consciously choose to release it and step into your new identity. This ceremonial completion helps your nervous system let go instead of clinging. Practice discomfort tolerance as part of identity work. Your new identity will feel uncomfortable, fake, or not you at first. This is normal and expected. The discomfort is not a sign you're doing it wrong, it's a sign you're changing. Practice staying with the discomfort instead of retreating to the familiar. Breathe through it. Remind yourself that all identity was once new and uncomfortable before it became familiar. You're building capacity to be someone new. Finally, surround yourself with reflection of your new identity. Identity forms through social mirroring. Find people, communities, or mentors who see you as your desired identity and reflect that back to you. Their belief in who you're becoming reinforces your emerging identity faster than you trying to believe it alone. You literally need others to see you as wealthy before you can fully see yourself that way, because that's how identity formation works at the neurological level. Living from integrated wealth identity. Once you've successfully bridged the wealth identity gap, when your thoughts, your feelings, and your deepest sense of self are aligned around abundance, everything changes. You're no longer trying to create wealth. You're being someone for whom wealth is natural. This integrated state is where effortless manifestation occurs because there's no internal conflict, no gap between who you think you should be and who you actually are. The first sign of integrated identity is that wealth creation feels natural, not forced. You're not pushing yourself to do wealthy person things, you're naturally doing them because that's who you are now. Charging premium prices doesn't require courage anymore, it's just what you do. Investing in yourself doesn't require convincing yourself it's okay. It's obvious. Making wealth-aligned decisions doesn't require effort. It's automatic. When identity has shifted, behavior shifts effortlessly. You also notice that imposter syndrome disappears. You're not pretending to be wealthy or acting like someone you're not. You genuinely are someone for whom wealth is normal. This authenticity is palpable. Others feel it and respond differently to you. They trust you more, value you more, want to work with you more. The energetic coherence of aligned identity is magnetic in a way that performed identity never is. Your results become consistent rather than erratic. The rubber band effect stops because there's no identity to snap back to. You've fully transitioned. You can receive wealth and keep it. You can break through ceilings without self-sabotage. You can sustain higher levels because your identity has expanded to match those levels. Your baseline has shifted, so you're not constantly fighting to maintain something that's above your identity comfort zone. The exhaustion from internal conflict dissolves. You're no longer maintaining two contradictory versions of yourself. There's one coherent you, someone who thinks abundantly and is abundant at the identity level. This integration frees up enormous energy that was previously consumed by the gap. You have more vitality, creativity, and capacity because you're not burning it in internal warfare between competing identities. You develop what I call identity stability. Your sense of self doesn't fluctuate based on external circumstances. A financial setback doesn't make you question your identity as someone who creates wealth. It's just temporary circumstances, not evidence of who you are. Conversely, financial wins don't inflate your ego because they're simply consistent with your identity, not surprising validation. This stability is grounding and powerful. Your decision-making becomes clearer and faster. When your identity is integrated, decisions are obvious because you're not deciding based on conflicting parts of yourself. You simply ask, "What would I do?" And the answer is clear because there's one coherent I with a clear identity. The paralysis that comes from identity conflict dissolves into decisive action. You notice that you attract different opportunities and people. The quantum field responds to your integrated identity by organizing reality to match it. Opportunities that align with wealthy identity appear. People who resonate with that identity show up. Resources flow toward you because you're now a coherent match for them. This isn't magic, it's the field responding to your clear, integrated signal. Perhaps most importantly, you feel at peace with yourself. There's no more, "I should be further along," or "Why can't I just do this?" You are who you are, and who you are is someone for whom wealth is natural. This self-acceptance paradoxically accelerates your growth because you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're working with yourself, building from a solid integrated foundation. Living from integrated wealth identity means you've closed the gap. Your thoughts, your feelings, your body, your nervous system, and your deepest sense of self all agree. You are someone who creates and holds wealth. This coherence is the foundation of quantum manifestation. You're not trying to manifest from a split state. You're manifesting from wholeness. And manifestation from wholeness is effortless, natural, and inevitable. The journey from thinking rich to being rich is the journey of closing the wealth identity gap. It's not quick or easy, but it's the real work. Because at the end of the day, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Upgrade who you are at the deepest identity level, and your entire financial reality reorganizes to match. This is how you go from performing wealth to living it, from thinking abundance to being it. This is integrated wealth identity, and it's where true prosperity begins.